who think that Congress does not act, be it on mental health or guns or pick your topic.
Well, the first thing I would say to this generation of children is how sorry I am. You have witnessed school shootings, mall shootings, concert shootings. There is no place that seems safe in our society. So as devastating as the loss of life is, the loss of innocence for this generation of children, I don't know anyone who would not pass a bill today that would prevent the next mass shooting. But to Senator Rubio's point, you got to find out how he accessed the gun. You got to find out whether or not there was a data point at some point in his background where someone could have reported it, whether or not he accessed the gun legally or illegally. Usually at about this time, Bill, we hear about the gun show loophole. Fine, close the gun show loophole, but how many mass killings have resulted from guns purchased at gun shows? So my criticism of the Obama administration was we had an 8-year decline in gun prosecutions. My objective is to prosecute the person before he takes a life, enforce these laws for which the Obama administration said there was no jury appeal. I get it. I used to prosecute them. There's no jury appeal in prosecuting a prohibited person. There is jury appeal in a murder case, but our goal should be to avoid the murder. So if you can show me a law that will prevent the next mass killing, go ahead and sign me up for it.
And I think people listening at home would say, okay, sir, then once the facts emerge, the topic itself is forgotten and we move on to the next thing, or the next battle or debate, or, again, pick whatever topic you want to on the Hill. But there doesn't seem to be movement toward protecting America's kids. That's a strong indictment.
And I would respectfully say to them, I think there has been some movement in the last 12 months. We were very clear to Attorney General Sessions that we're disappointed that the gun prosecutions went down for 8 years. So before we begin to advocate for new laws, I think it is eminently fair to say, how are we doing enforcing the ones we currently have? There are long lists of prohibited people from possessing even a single bullet, Bill, much less an AR-15, a single bullet. Long list of prohibited people, including those who have been adjudicated mentally ill. How are we doing enforcing the current laws? Because if all we're going to do is pass another law that an attorney general and the U.S. attorneys are not going to enforce, I don't know how that makes people safer.
No. Sir, we've got a lot going on, as you can imagine. I know you've got a lot going on, too. The immigration debate on the Senate side, entering the House phase as well. About 36 hours ago, you broke news that you're going to open up an investigation into Rob Porter and his access to the White House. What have you learned, or what do you want to learn now?
I want to understand the interim security clearance process and why there are so many folks in that interim status, because necessarily that means the investigation was not as fulsome as it should have been. That's the classified information security clearance part of it. I also want to know, as a former domestic violence prosecutor, how in the world someone with credible allegations of domestic violence could be hired for any position in government, especially the White House, separate and apart from any security clearance issue.
Apparently 2 others have since resigned from their positions within their connection to the executive branch. Have you been given assurance from the White House that they have done enough background checks sufficiently to make sure that there are no others who could find themselves in a similar situation?
Haven't yet. We wrote them yesterday. I drafted another letter last night, actually, about the interim security clearance process and who's in it and whether or not you've received any derogatory information. My first questions are going to be to the FBI, because I want to fully know who knew what when and who did you communicate it with, and then we'll direct the inquiries to the White House. But I'm going to start with the FBI.
Sir, thank you for your time. A couple of tender topics today, and I appreciate you coming back with us here.
Yes, sir.
Trey Gowdy, you bet.
We've got new images coming into America's newsroom right now showing the shooting suspect Nicholas Cruz on the ground moments after the police arrested him. All of this as we are moments away now from the latest update from the Broward County Sheriff's Department. Less than 1 hour. We will go to that live when it begins.
Also, these stories we're hearing about the chaos and the fear from inside the hallways of that high school as the killer pulled the fire alarm to get students out into the hallway. Next, we'll speak to a 15-year-old freshman on what he heard and saw during that horrific moment inside that school.
So the dude pulled the fire drill. We went outside. Boom, 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 boom. We heard a gunshot. I thought it was firecrackers.
They are monitoring the subject. subject right now. He went from the third floor to the second floor. Third to the second floor. He may have a gas mask on now. They had him exiting the building, running south. I'm coming out to the east side with the casualty and ambulance standing by. Critical casualty.
Those are police scanners giving us a chilling glimpse into the terror that unfolded inside a South Florida high school yesterday. Officers sweeping the school, unsure at first of how large a threat they were facing, going from room to room, rescuing terrified students and teachers. The victims getting to safety in single file, arms raised. Joining me by the phone now is Will Gilroy. He's a 15-year-old freshman at that high school. Will, thank you for coming on with us this morning. Could you tell us a little bit about what went on inside of your school yesterday and what you saw and heard?
Yeah, well, it was just supposed to be a normal school day. It was supposed to be a good school day. It was Valentine's Day, so it was supposed to be a little more happy. And we had a fire drill earlier in the day. So this is we had a second fire. A fire alarm went off, and we were a little skeptical about it because we weren't sure if this was like a joke or a prank or is real or not. So I was in the building across from where the shooting was, and about half of my class started going outside, and then we saw security guards and they told us to go back inside, and then we heard firecrackers, and we heard a firecracker-like noise, and so most of my class got like that. Some of the students had to run to other classrooms, and then we thought at first that since we were told we were going to have an active shooter training sometime in the coming up weeks, that this is our active shooter training and it's not serious. So my class went into a closet. There's 30 kids in a closet, and we weren't taking it serious because we thought this was just a drill for about 20 minutes, and we were in that closet for an hour. And then we heard sirens, and a lot of us went on our phones and started texting our parents, seeing if they heard anything, and looking on news channels, and we saw that we were on the news, and we got a whole bunch of, all my friends and I got text messages saying, "Are you okay?" from places out of state and from our parents, and we all started texting our parents to tell them we were safe, and we're on lockdown, and we know there's a shooter on school. But if we didn't have our phones, I don't know if we would have really realized that there was a shooter on school. Because we didn't hear anything. We just thought this is just a drill. And then I had some people call me, but I couldn't answer because the shooter. I was texting people and then I heard some students got out, and a few friends of mine, they got out from the other side of the building, and they said that they need somewhere to go. And since my house is right behind Douglas, I told them they can go to my house. My dad was home, and they just ran there, and so they stayed there, and they luckily got off campus. So I was pretty good to hear that. But we were on that, and we were really scared for that, and we were just trying to keep each other comfort, and it was pretty scary.
An amazing 30 kids piled in a closet, all texting your parents, I'm sure, who were terrified. What did you think when you heard the accused shooter's name, Nicholas Cruz?
Actually, there's a ninth grader who is in our grade, and I believe his name is Nicholas Cruz too. And so a lot of us thought it's him, and we were surprised that it was a freshman. And then others said, "Oh, he's a ex-student. He was part of ROTC. He's a current senior." And we heard a lot of stuff, but a lot of us were like scared because we knew someone named with that name, and we were really hoping it wasn't him. And that was kind of crazy.
Will, have you been able to connect with your friends this morning?
A few of mine, but some of them I have not been able to connect with, and I don't know what's happening to them right now.
Are you back with your family at home now?
Yes.
I'm sure your parents were so scared while all this was playing out. It's wonderful to hear your story and the many others that we're going to hear in coming days. We're so happy that you are safe. Will, thanks for coming on this morning.
Thank you.
Will's a freshman, and that is just one of the many stories now from inside the school. Also coming up here, we have heard from several students who described the suspect they thought they knew as a classmate at that school.
He was a kick the guy out of school. He was a little bit of a troubled kid, but everyone thought, he always had jokes and stuff like that. It was a lot of crazy stuff that he did, just not right for school. He got kicked out of school multiple times for this kind of stuff.
So more on that and more on this too. This is a live picture now of the home where the student was last living. Apparently he moved in with a family around Thanksgiving time. There's a lot of police activity there, so we'll take you there when we get more from that location. Nicholas Cruz is in court later today. He's 19 years old. Police are finding what they call very disturbing details on his life. Lawmakers looking for answers, and the gun control debate continues as it reopens yet again on Capitol Hill and across the country.
When you put the full picture together, you start to say, this is a person who could be a very serious problem. And then what can you do about it? How can you get ahead of it? How can you jump on that and prevent it from happening? And that's the problem here.
9:33, Parkland, Florida. We're awaiting a news conference from the Broward County Sheriff's Office. That should happen in about 45 minutes from now. We'll hear from the president around 11 a.m. Eastern time following the deadly shooting there at that South Florida high school. What you're seeing there is a line of police cars in Parkland, Florida, outside the home where we believe the suspect was living last. And according to some reports, he moved in there around Thanksgiving time after he requested to move in with a family friend in Northwest Broward County. And according to the Associated Press reporting, that family knew that Cruz owned an AR-15. They made him keep it locked up in a safe. He, however, had the key. So there's a lot of police activity there today. And the gunfire killing, we know, 17 people, and leaving more than a dozen others hospitalized, several in critical condition. And we will hear from the doctors as well next hour here live. 19-year-old Cruz, the possible motivation of this hour still unclear. The Florida Governor Rick Scott vowing to leave no stone unturned in this investigation. Here he was about 1 hour ago.
There's going to be a thorough investigation. We'll know what happened in this case. Hopefully we can take whatever happened here. We can't save the lives that we lost here, but we can do everything we can to make sure this doesn't happen again. I mean, you just can't imagine how a person can senselessly go shoot and kill another human being.
So that suspect facing 17 counts of premeditated murder. His first court appearance will happen as expected later this afternoon.
Meanwhile, here's what we know about the suspected shooter. Nicholas Cruz is in police custody at this moment in a county jail. Police are questioning him about his motive. When asked, students aren't shocked to learn that Cruz was the shooter. Police already discovering a trail of very disturbing material on social media.
He was a former student of Douglas High School. He got expelled for disciplinary reasons. I don't know the specifics. We've already began to dissect his websites and the things that social media that he was on, and some of the things have come to mind are very